Hey, this is Judah Mantel from SceneForge Studio, and in this video I'm going to go over the changes and improvements in version 0.4.5. So it's a relatively minor release with some major changes that I'm going to go over now. So the biggest and most important additions is the sky system and the way the sky and cloud system works. Now let's go through these settings as you may be familiar with them. So we have the weather settings. Now other than clear sky and then some more specific weather settings, the settings for foggy 1, 2, 3, and 4 have basically been removed because we can now set the properties of the clouds independent from the weather, which I think is a great new feature. So I'm going to keep it at clear sky for now. And if I open up sky settings, you'll notice that the options for the clouds switching between volumetric and regular have been eliminated entirely. That's because we swapped out the volumetric clouds in favor of this shader-based dome cloud solution. Now what that means is it will run so much faster, at the drawback of it being not true volumetric clouds. Now what that means is that if you were to move all the way up and try to fly through them, you wouldn't be able to. Eventually you would just kind of fly outside of the bounds of the cloud volume, or the cloud dome I should say. Now because SceneForge is not meant to be a full 3D flying simulator, it doesn't really matter. I think it's a worthwhile trade-off. But that being said, it runs much faster and you can get these really realistic looking, in my opinion, and somewhat better looking nice fluffy clouds that animate much better. So let me go back to my scene here. Let's look up at the sky and kind of mess with these properties. So we still have sun shafts. If I look at the sun over here, that works exactly the same way it did previously. Now the two options for clouds are the move speed, so you can see we can make them not move much and move quite rapidly and even transform and blend the way clouds actually do. I'm going to leave this somewhere towards the middle. And then most importantly, we have the cloud density. Now again, these kind of took a bunch of other sliders and put it into a single one that I think just makes it much easier and simpler to get solid looking results. So you can see we can set the density and all of that stuff. So if you want to create a cloudy day, you can do that pretty easily. Now the color of the clouds is directly integrated into the current weather preset. If I make this rainy, you can see it gets much darker and so on. But there's also the fog system that has been dramatically changed and improved. So let's open up the fog settings and go through those. You'll see also the options were much simplified, which I think is a good thing. So at the top, you'll see auto fog color. Now I'm going to show you what that does in a minute, and I'll leave that on for now. But the other two options are the fog start distance, which you can see the lower the number, the closer it is to the camera. And the fog density, which is, of course, the density of the fog. So even on a clear sky day, with some clouds that we will set, you can still choose to make a foggy sky, which I think is a useful thing. Now, what the auto fog color option does is that basically by default sets the color of the fog to whatever time of day and whatever weather preset is currently active. For most things, this will be good, but let's say you want to create kind of like an alien landscape. Well, you can turn this off and just select your own fog color. This makes it really easy to customize your scene in ways that you couldn't before. So in some ways, we kind of removed some of the more complicated options because they weren't really being used, but we added some options that make customization much easier and more fun and just much more useful, I should say. So you can see you can set this to whatever you want. Because the fog color is also directly influenced by other factors, such as the my scattering and things that are inherent to the skybox, the color is not going to be as one-to-one, but it will be much more accurate to the way scattering works in the real world. But you can see if you mess around with it, you can create some pretty interesting results. And this carries over depending on the time of day, as you can see here, and the weather preset. So you can get some really interesting results depending on the look of your scene. I'm going to switch this back because this is super creepy. Just like that. Now, other than those settings, not much else has been changed. There were a couple tweaks, such as moving the viewfinder button up, mainly because it's just easier to access. A couple other improvements, for example, the tripod model has been swapped out for something a little more customizable, so now you can choose the height of the tripod, which is great. Also, camera rigs work a lot better in more realistic, I should say, in the way that they actually would. Some of the icons have been swapped out to be a little clearer. And a couple other tweaks that you'll notice when you come across them, but you don't really have to worry about. Some bug fixes, like the paths not quite working the way that they should. So when I click play, previously the orbs would still be visible and you wouldn't be able to edit them. Now that's all fixed. You can see that the starting option, which you can't delete, is pink. That's just to indicate that this is the first point in the path. So if this was not closed, you can see new options, new points will be spawned at the positions on the other end of the track. Again, this is in preparation for the module and attraction design system that isn't really relevant in this release, but it's useful to know that, this is the starting point. Additionally, the settings menu up here, the support menu up here has been changed to be, have more options so you can access documentation, which is a completely new site built from the ground up for just ease of access. So it's searchable and it's just much easier to use. We also have access to the YouTube channel, which you are watching right now, the Discord server, which I highly recommend everyone join if you're watching this video and using SceneForge, and of course a button to just email support. And so with that, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.